This is verse 14 of the 7th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus has given instruction that those who are his followers should labor to find the narrow gate, the straight gate, the narrow path, because he says the way that leads to destruction is, of course, wide open and inviting. There is a way that seems right unto man, but the end thereof is death. That's the spirit of what's being stated here. And continuing that thought, we have the word te. This is the interrogative pronoun. Means what or why, sometimes how, which is probably the sense here. There is a textual variant on this. Some render it hoti, because that would tie it a little bit more causally to the preceding statement. The general sense is preserved either way. We're going to go with how here. So how stene, just had this word in the previous verse, how straight, as in the Straits of Juan de Fuca. That's the idea. Straight is a narrow passageway. It's derived from the word histemi, which means to stand, and it suggests the idea of those things that are standing around, more or less constricting access. And so how straight, he pule, the gate. So the word pule means gate. This is the nominative in this case. So how straight the gate. Kai tithle mene. This is from philebo, a verb that means I crowd, I close in on. It's related to the word thlipsis, which means affliction, and that would be the idea, to close in on something, to crowd it, as in to afflict it. And so how straight is the gate, and how narrow, he hodos, the way. This is a feminine noun of the second declension, so how narrow the way. The apagusa, this is from apago, means to lead from. This is a participle, of course. It's a present active participle. The feminine is used here because it's going along with the word hodos, which is feminine. It's in the singular nominative, so how constricted is the way which leads astein zoein, to life. Jesus doesn't say to eternal life here. That may be implied, but really it just means to a better way of life. That the better way of life, the more fulfilling way of life, is going to be based on a certain degree of rigorous self-discipline, as opposed to simply allowing oneself to be carried along with the popular mood. He says kai oligoi, from the word oligos, which means few or small, as in an oligarch. And few, asin, third person plural, present active indicative of a, me, few, there are. Hoi heuriskontes, from heurisco, to find. Participle here, present active participle, it's the masculine plural nominative, and few are the finding it ones, it here, referring back to hodos, which is, of course, feminine. And so few there are that find that way, few there are that find that narrow gate. But we are being encouraged by Jesus to give our best efforts to locating that more difficult path, because, of course, the greater fulfillment is going to be discovered there, and it leads us in a better direction generally, ultimately to life, and ultimately, I suppose Jesus implies here, to eternal life.